They say curiosity is a dangerous thing. I never truly understood that until I found myself standing at the edge of a decision that could shatter my life. My name is Rebecca, and I have been married to my husband, David, for 10 years. By all accounts, we have a good marriage, stable, predictable, and built on trust. But stability has a way of becoming routine, and routine has a way of becoming dull. I never thought of myself as the type of woman who would stray. I took pride in being a loyal wife, a good partner. Yet, there was a whisper in the wind, a story I kept hearing from the women at the gym, the salon, even in quiet conversations at dinner parties. It was about Black men and their reputation in bed. The way women spoke about it, with hushed voices and knowing glances, made my stomach flutter with something I couldn't quite name. Was it intrigue, desire, or just a reckless need to know if the rumors were true? I pushed the thought aside, chalking it up to meaningless gossip. But once a seed is planted, it has a way of growing. I began to notice them more. The Black men in our town, the way they moved, the confidence in their stride, the way their eyes seemed to see right through you. It wasn't that I had never found Black men attractive before. I just never allowed myself to think about it in any real way. Then I met Jay. I wasn't looking for trouble that day. I was simply picking up a smoothie after yoga when he walked into the cafe. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a deep, rich voice that made the air feel thick. I don't know if it was the way he looked at me or the way his lips curled into a slow, knowing smile, but something inside me woke up. Our conversation was simple, casual even. He complimented my necklace. I laughed and told him it was a gift from my husband. He raised an eyebrow as if amused, but said nothing. As I walked away, I felt his gaze linger on me, and for the first time in years, I felt like a woman, not just a wife, not just someone's partner, but a woman who was seen. That night, as I lay in bed beside David, I couldn't stop thinking about Jay. The way his voice had wrapped around me, the way he had looked at me like he already knew my secret. I turned to my husband, watching the soft rise and fall of his chest. I loved him, I really did. But something inside me whispered, is love always enough? The thought scared me, but I couldn't shake it. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. It started with small things. A glance that lasted too long. A thought I shouldn't have entertained. A message that I had no business sending. After that first encounter with Jay at the cafe, I told myself it was nothing. A moment of innocent flirtation, nothing more. But my mind refused to let it go. I started going back to that cafe, hoping to see him again. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. I just happened to be craving a smoothie, or maybe I just needed a break from my usual routine. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. And then, one day, he was there. "Rebecca, right?" he said, his lips curling into that same knowing smile. I felt a rush of heat climb up my neck. The fact that he remembered my name shouldn't have made my stomach tighten the way it did. "Yeah," I said, forcing a casual smile. "You must really like the smoothies here." I let out a nervous laugh. "They're my guilty pleasure." He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "We all have those, don't we?" Something about the way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. He wasn't just talking about smoothies, and we both knew it. Over the next few weeks, our interactions became more frequent. Sometimes he was already there when I walked in, as if he had been waiting for me. Other times, he arrived shortly after, like fate was pulling us together. We never talked about anything too serious. Small talk about work, about hobbies, but there was something unspoken between us, an energy I could feel in my bones. And then, one day, he asked for my number. I hesitated, my heart pounding. Giving him my number would be crossing a line. I wasn't the kind of woman who did things like this. I wasn't a cheater. But my fingers moved before my brain could stop them. That night, as I lay in bed beside my husband, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen. Jay. Couldn't stop thinking about you today. My breath caught in my throat. I shouldn't reply, I knew that. But my hands betrayed me once again. Me. You shouldn't say things like that. His response was almost instant. Jay. Why not? Is it a lie? I stared at the message. My heart racing. I knew I was playing with fire, but for the first time in a long time, I felt alive, and I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. I should have stopped. I should have blocked his number, deleted the messages, and walked away before it was too late. But I didn't. Instead, I let the texts continue. Innocent at first, casual conversations about life, work, and little things that made us laugh. But as the days passed, the messages changed. They became deeper, more personal. Then they became something else entirely. Jay, you ever think about what it would be like? I stared at my phone, my breath catching in my throat. I knew exactly what he meant, and I knew exactly how I should respond. But the truth was, I had thought about it. More times than I wanted to admit. Me. It doesn't matter. I'm married, Jay. That doesn't answer my question. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. Every part of me screamed to stop, to shut this down before it was too late. But instead, I typed out a response. Me. Yes. That one word changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon when I finally crossed the line. David was working late, and I had no real plans for the evening. Jay and I had been texting all day, the conversation getting more and more heated. And then he sent the message that made my stomach flip. Jay, come see me. I should have said no. I should have laughed it off and gone home to my husband like a good wife. But instead, I found myself in my car, driving to the other side of town, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Jay lived in an upscale apartment complex, nothing too flashy, but nice enough to tell me he did well for himself. My heart pounded as I stepped out of my car and walked toward the entrance. I almost turned back. Almost. But then he opened the door, his eyes locked onto mine, dark and unreadable. For a long moment, we just stood there, neither of us speaking. Then, without a word, he reached for my hand and pulled me inside. The next moments were a blur, his hands on my skin, his lips against mine. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing, just heat, hunger, and the feeling of being completely consumed. I had never felt anything like it before, and by the time it was over, as I lay tangled in his sheets, the weight of what I had done crashed down on me like a tidal wave. I had cheated. I had betrayed my husband in the worst way possible, but as much as guilt clawed at my chest, another feeling lurked beneath it. I didn't regret it, and that terrified me more than anything. No, I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers ached. My heart was still racing, but for an entirely different reason now. Guilt, fear, the crushing realization of what I had done. The house was quiet when I stepped inside. David was still at work. I had time to shower, to wash away the scent of Jay from my skin, to pretend that tonight had never happened. But no matter how hot the water ran, I couldn't scrub away the truth. I had betrayed my husband. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My face looked the same, but I wasn't the same woman anymore. I had done something I never thought I was capable of, and the worst part, a small, shameful part of me wanted to do it again. The next few days passed in a blur. I tried to act normal, to be the same wife I had always been. I cooked dinner, laughed at David's jokes, let him hold me at night. But something had changed, and I could feel it in the air. David was a good man. He didn't deserve this, and yet every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped a beat. Jay. Thinking about you. I shouldn't have responded. I should have cut him off completely, but the pull was too strong. I was trapped. Trapped between the life I had built and the temptation that threatened to destroy it. Trapped between the love of a good man and the fire of something I had never experienced before. I knew I couldn't keep this up forever. Sooner or later, I would have to make a choice. Stay in the life I had always known, safe but predictable, or risk everything for a passion that consumed me. I had no idea which path I would take. But one thing was certain, no matter what I chose, there was no going back.